Did you have
No.
trick-or-treaters last night, Freeze?
No, not at all. Not a single one.
Yeah, well,
Oh, there was a lot of tricks, but there weren't many treats.
On this episode of the John 1911 Podcast, Kimber escapes from New York, SHOT Show 2021 is canceled, the Gen 5 Glock 40s are released, and somebody will be very wrong after Tuesday.
Good morning, everybody. This is Danny, Marky, and Freeze, and this is episode 191 of the John 1911 Podcast, our last episode before the 2020 election. Today is Sunday, November 1st. It is the morning after Halloween, and we have a confirmed sighting by Freeze when he was working last night of Jesus of Methlaham at his place of business. So... Oh, come on. I thought that was funny.
Yeah, it is funny.
Yeah, yes it is. And he wasn't in costume.
You know, I see so many meth heads on a daily basis that, I mean, it takes a lot to really shock me. But I think the and I might have even talked about this on pod before, but I think the last time I was shocked by a meth head, I was talking to this chick. She was realistically probably in her mid to late 20s. She looked like she was 50, but hey, that's the life of a meth head.
That's normal. And
literally, as she's talking, one of her teeth flew out of her mouth and floor. and I mean, this is shit you can't make up.
There's an image that is permanently ingrained in my mind. I do have a nephew that's an orthodontist. I wonder what kind of business he would get down around where you're at.
Unless he makes, dentures, probably not much. Because, two-toothed Charlie's not really needing much of an orthodontist.
Two-toothed Charlie.
And an ear of corn. Oh, my gosh.
Hey, Freeze, let me ask you, because, we decided this. Off pod, we were going to discuss gun stuff first because obviously once we get into politics it's just going to go crazy.
Yeah.
As far as I can recall, and I could be mistaken, I believe, there's Officer Mike, but I believe you're really the only person associated with the John 1911 Armory who has a, quote, AR type pistol. Is that true?
Yeah.
You have one, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I sure do.
Have you even, because I know you've been so busy, have you even heard about the SBR brace issue with the ATF?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I've heard of it, and I'm not really putting a whole lot of credence in it right now. It seems like every couple of years, this issue kind of pops up. And the biggest issue with the braces is the overall length of the pistol. And what it is these guys are making pistols with these short braces and these 7.5 inch barrels, and they're basically not meeting the minimum overall length that you have to have. And off the top of my head, I want to think it's like 26 inches or something like that. I could be wrong, but and there's certain braces out there that are solid braces, and then there's other braces that are really pushing the limit of, of a viable brace. And the ATF looks into it every couple of years, and it generally doesn't go anywhere. Now, I will say if Biden and Harris win this election, it very well could get traction and go somewhere. It probably will. But if Trump wins, it'll go away. I'm not too worried about it at this point. I might be real worried about it 3 days from now, though.
Well, so I haven't paid that much attention to it because, I'm not against braces. I'm not against the pistol things. I mean, I'm so glad they're doing it. I would love to see the SBR. I mean, they basically have destroyed the SBR category for the NFA. And so, but some of the letters that I keep hearing people make reference to that the ATF has been sending, I'm not certain on this, but I believe the first one that got a lot of publicity was to Q, Kevin Brittingham over at Q for his Honey Badger pistol that he was selling to the public. The Honey Badger is a gun that he made for the military that they use. And that brace has a cheek piece on it. Yeah. And that may be one of the issues.
That's a no-no.
That's a no-no. Well, the way the gun is designed, it's the Honey Badger was designed to meet certain military requirements, and I hate saying goofy shit like that because that's how people on the firearms internet talk. Yeah, mil spec. But what they did is they made that gun so goddamn short that they even made the stock for the real Honey Badger. Yeah, it's Honey Badger, right? Yeah, the real honey. There's a honey. Yeah, it's a Honey Badger. Then there's this Sugar Weasel. Anyway, they made the gun so short that they even wanted to make the stock short. They sacrificed comfort for usability, which, surprise, that's called the military. And so this stock piece for the military does have a very small little, it's got telescoping stock, but it's got this little cheek guard at the, right by the castle nut. Mm-hmm. And I think, I'm not an attorney, and I'm definitely not an NFA attorney, I think the issue with Q and their quote brace is their brace has it's got a brace rear that you suppose they can put your hand through, but it still has that cheek piece up front. Yeah. It still has that cheek piece up front, and it I think the ATF has taken exception with that. Now, with that being said, I've heard grumblings that the ATF may be moving to change the game on these pistol guns completely. Like, this is more than just an overall length thing and some of that. What they're doing, what they're doing is they are basically wanting to say that they're not going to allow pistols, quote, pistol ARs pistols, to come in if they have a barrel longer than a certain length. Mm-hmm. And they also are going to, what the hell else was it they were going to do? They wanted to basically make, if you have a existing pistol and one of these braces, I think they want you to register it as is it AOW or destructive device freeze? Do you remember which one? Like, I think it's $5 tax stamp. I think one of those is a $5. I think it's the AOW, and the other device is a $5 tax stamp, possibly, as opposed to $200 tax stamp.
Something like that. I'm not really up on it. I mean, it's been a while since I've looked into all the tax stamps and their fees, but the biggest thing is, most guys that are running pistols, AR pistols, they're building them themselves. I mean, there are companies selling them, yes, but most people that have them build them themselves. Now, that's the AR platform. The AK platform's totally different. Most guys that have AK pistols have purchased them because most guys, even though they think they're like master armorers because they can put together an AR pistol, most guys have no ability or the equipment to put together an AK.
Yeah, an AK is much more. To put an AK together, to do it correctly, you basically have to have a small machine shop.
Yeah,
you got to be able to rivet.
Yeah, you have to have presses, and there's. I'm not going to get into the details. I mean, we could spend a whole podcast on that. But the thing is, if the ATF puts regulations on importing, pistols or manufactured pistols, I don't really think that's going to impact the market that much.
It won't impact the AR market because what started all of this was the fact, and if some people may not even be really aware of this, the stock on an, and again, I apologize to the listener that knows all of this. This is so basic stuff here, but let's just get through it. An AR-15 M16 gun has a buffer tube in it, and that buffer tube sticks out the back of the receiver. Well, the quote stock unquote of any AR, whether it's a full length A1 from the Vietnam War or some little gun that Johnny's making in his basement, still has that buffer tube, and you could in theory just run the gun with the buffer tube sticking out of the back of it.
Oh, a lot of people do. There's a
Some
lot of
people
guys
do.
out there. A lot of guys have AR pistols and they don't have any type of a stock or a brace on it. They're just running a buffer tube.
So
I mean, that's not uncommon.
it's and it's the art. I remember when there was all this drama about whether you're shouldering it or not shouldering it, and I was like, you know what, I'm gonna stay away from this because I just, I'm not that interested in it. But the argument I guess everybody's been making for a while is that the brace genre has broken the NFA as far as SBRs, and it looks like the ATF may be trying to fight back on that. And I think the battle is now engaged, and I don't know which way it's going to go, what's going to happen.
Well, I mean, time will tell. But the biggest thing with the brace is there's a lot of companies out there making some damn nice braces, and a lot of these braces are damn near borderline butt stocks. I mean, they're a brace.
They're made to be.
Yes.
They're not braces.
There's
not. I don't know how many braces they've sold in this country, but there are not. Just for example, 60 million people running around this country who can't shoulder a rifle and they have to buy a brace.
Yeah, no, but what I'm saying is a lot of these quote unquote pistol braces are, I mean, they're pretty intricate and some of them are nice. Like mine, the brace I have on mine is it's called a CAC blade, and it's pretty basic. It's pretty simple. The biggest thing with the brace is you can't have any type of a butt pad on it, and you can't have any type of a like a cheek pad or anything. It's got to be a brace that you can brace up to your arm. Now, the ATF does allow you to shoulder a brace, but you can't shoulder it comfortably with a nice cushy butt pad. But you don't really need a butt pad with an AR-15 anyway. So
5.56 is.
Yeah, exactly. It's interesting. Like for example, my brace is, there is no argument that it is flat out a brace. I mean, you can't sit there and say, "Oh, that's borderline butts." No, it's not. It's it's strictly a brace. It's not fancy. It's not comfy. It is what it is. And I chose that for that reason.
Hold on, I want to stop you right there. But that's the crux of this entire conversation. ATF is angling to get rid of quote braces. Their argument is going to be, you want to put a brace on your gun, you're going to pay an AOW $5 tax stamp and put it on the NFA. That's what they're doing. This isn't about argument like, is it a brace or is it a brace? That's the argument with the Q brace. But the letters that have been going around and some of the stuff that people have been hearing, ATF is resetting it. ATF is trying to reset this entire genre.
Well, we'll see what happens. Like I said, if Trump wins this election, I think this will fizzle out and go away. I really do. If Biden wins the election, well, you know what? The pistol brace issue with the ATF is the least of our freaking worries.
Biden supposedly on his campaign platform website has a proposition to make any magazine that they deem to be, I don't know, let's just say standard capacity 30, whatever it would be, over whatever X size that they want that magazine to be on the NFA with the $200 tax stamp.
Per magazine?
Per magazine.
Well, if he can get that to pass, that would be devastating because between you, myself, Officer Mike, and all these people, I mean, we don't have $10 million to submit $200 NFA tax stamps for every freaking magazine we've got.
Well, what they would probably have to do, it'd be like the 1960. Let's just take this out to its logical conclusion. If they did do that, and like it for some reason we're in, the commies have taken over, and this is their next step in gun control, they would have to do an amnesty like '68, and everybody would have to register their, either register them for free or register them for nothing. Probably for free as an amnesty, and then anything beyond that point would be that's the only way that would work. Because you're right, because it would there are people out there. It would be tens of thousands of dollars just in magazines.
Oh yeah.
Well, how many?
But I mean, we're just talking about like AR and AK type magazines. But if they're going to do that with those, what about pistol magazines that hold more than 10 rounds or 12 or 15 rounds?
They're going to have to do it with all of them, because what's a pistol? You and I, hold on, we're talking about an AR-15 pistol, and then we're talking about a Glock 17 pistol. Legally, those are the same thing. So the magazines are the same thing.
Yeah.
Legally, you would define them as you wrote that or you enforced it. It would be the same category. Mm-hmm. So yes, it'd be pistols too.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of magazines floating around on the market, or not in the market, in private hands.
Well, that was my question. How many people do you actually think would register them?
I'm going to give you the real answer to this. I'm not going to give you the lawyer answer to this. Then I'm going to say this on a podcast. I'm going to say this on social media. This is true. If for some reason the federal government decided that they're going to basically say every pistol is an NFA item, every magazine is an NFA item, bring them in. You do that, I think there's going to be violence. I don't think people are going to. I think after the year that this country has been through, and all the lies that the media's told about what's real and what's not real, and what's worth reporting and what's not worth reporting, and classifying people as things that they're not, and then the government's going to turn around and do this. I think history would. I think we are in a period right now as a country. It's 1859. I mean, it's.
Well, I'm going to interrupt you here, and this is interesting because we got so much negative feedback on our Harper's Ferry Arsenal design T-shirt that we did years ago. But that T-shirt kind of rings true today for 2020. If you know the background of why we designed it. But let me ask you this: going back to the, so you gotta turn in and claim your magazines to get the amnesty. So how doable is this realistically? So say I'm sitting on 100 30-round AR magazines, and they say, hey, you got to bring them in to register them. And I'm like, okay, cool. So I bring 5 in to get them on the register. Well, there's no serial numbers on the magazines. Well, okay, so if I bring in 5, I still have 95 hidden. And as long as I can produce 5, if a magazine goes south, I just replace it with one of the ones that I didn't declare. And who's to say any different?
Again, this is all theoretical here. Okay.
Yeah, of course.
This is all theoretical. But this is not 1968. It's 2020. And the technology that we have today, and the technology that's available to the government, and the technology that's available to the average citizen, you may very well run into a situation where they create a sticker that becomes the tax stamp. It's a hologram sticker, like a modern sticker. And basically every magazine's got to have that fucking sticker on it.
Okay, I see your point. I see your point.
Yeah.
Well, that, and think of the database that they would be creating to come and get you if you didn't.
Well, Danny, that's a good point, and that's what would start the war, because we have two competing there's a Second Amendment, which is fine. Okay, we all know this. This is the John1911 Firearms Podcast, but there are two competing laws that exists in this country that a lot of people don't talk about right now because they don't really realize that it exists. Okay, there is a law on the books that says it is illegal to make a national firearms registry. It is illegal for the federal government to compile a list of every gun every person owns. That's why the ATF and the FFL system always defaults to this paper and microfiche, and then when they do these forward traces, they have to go, like if an FFL goes out of business, all those records got to get shipped off to West Virginia at the ATF facility, and they go through them by hand every time, if they're trying to forward trace stuff or find things, because there is a law that was passed in I think probably in the 90s or the 80s, 90s maybe, but it was against the law. It's against U.S. code to make a just national registry of firearms. However, however, parallel to that, 1934 National Firearms Act, the original gun control, the original reasonable gun control that nobody wants to talk about, they don't look at it that way. There was a common sense gun control was passed in 1934, the National Firearms Act. And the National Firearms Act regulated cannons, explosives, centerfire weapons larger than 50 caliber. It regulated, machine guns. It regulated barrel length and shotgun length, and it regulated, a fair amount of this stuff. The NFA, by its mere existence, is a list, is a registry. And so what the Democrats are basically saying is, yeah, we can't have a national database on firearms. Title, what I can't remember what the title is, freeze title, whatever. But we're going to go ahead and we'll just push them over to this list over here and put everything on that.
Well, you know what a lot of people don't also realize is the National Firearms Act of 1934 is a direct result of the 18th Amendment when they introduced prohibition. When they introduced prohibition, the gangsters and the mobs and the bootleggers, did all their shit. And everyone's familiar with, all the gangster movies and the shows that have been on about what's going on. So, prior to 1934, you could walk into any hardware store and buy sticks of dynamite. You could buy BARs. You could buy Thompson submachine guns. And what they did is to kind of stem the bullshit from all these gangsters and the mob violence. The 1934 Act was created.
Yes.
And I mean, there's more to it than that. But in gist, if the 18th Amendment would have never been passed, basically making alcohol illegal, we probably wouldn't have seen a National Firearms Act of 1934. It could have come later, but not in 1934.
You know what? That's an interesting point because there is some credence to that theory, and here's why. There's, I guess there's always, quote, organized crime, and I'm gonna say this. I like all these like Godfather movies. I hate these movies. I recognize that they're well-made movies, and I recognize the cinema and the drama, but I've known real gangsters, and I've known Italian gangsters. I've known some of these people, and the romanticization of these fools, it just chafes my ass. So, Crips and Bloods today are organized crime, okay? It is what it is. But it wasn't until alcohol was made illegal that organized crime in the United States really started making big money.
Yeah.
And big money breeds big competition, and big competition, outside of the law breeds a lot of violence, and that caused a lot of sensational headlines. People were, the St. Valentine's Day massacre and all of these crazy things that were going on, and people were like, we have to do something. So you're right. And it's funny because it's not a coincidence. Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and now today explosives.
Yeah.
But it was always explosives. They just added it to the name. But yeah, you're right, Freeze. It is. There's a direct correlation. We're still paying for that.
Yeah.
We're still paying for that.
Damn near 100 years later.
Mm-hmm. Reasonable gun control. We had reasonable gun control 100 years ago. And it's like,
Well, and some people will argue that there is no such thing as reasonable gun control, but I don't want to get into that right now because we can argue circles around that all day, and I don't necessarily disagree with that argument either. But with that being said, I'm okay with you not being able to go into Home Depot and buy a case of dynamite.
There's certainly an argument to be made either way. I'll tell you what, for having the range and trying to solve some of our problems, it would be very handy to be able to get dynamite much more easily than what we have to go through to get dynamite to remove some of the stuff we have to do.
That's true. But hey, you know what? There's always fertilizer and diesel fuel.
Yeah, I know. Well, to put a bookend on this, the argument on reasonable gun control is, 1934 passed, but here's the thing. After 1934, it wasn't like 1934 then 1994. The assault weapons ban. There was constant, stuff in the 50s, stuff in the 60s, stuff in the 70s, stuff in the 80s. It never stops. Mm-hmm. The gun control thing never stopped. And once in 1986, they were able to limit machine guns under the Hughes Amendment, close the NFA. Then basically semi-automatic military-looking rifles were no longer thought of, those aren't machine guns. Now they're the biggest, baddest thing at the top of the spectrum, and then they start attacking those. It's like the 50 BMG. Why should you defend the 50 BMG? 50 BMG is expensive. They're not known for being that accurate. I know there's people out there who tell me different. It depends on the load of the gun. But the thing is, if you ban the 50, and then next thing you know, 416 Chi-Tac is the one they want to ban.
Yep.
It never stops. You got to have something has to be first.
Well, and then when they start getting below 50 caliber, then next thing you know, you get into, we're going to ban 338 Lapua. Now you're getting down into the 30 caliber range, and it makes them a lot easier to ban, like, say, 300 Win Mag.
Mm-hmm. Well, you start making. Well, what happens is you go from the 50 BMG, and they make some hyperbolic statement like, "Oh my God, it could take down an airliner." I literally heard a politician say that once. 50 BMG can take down airliners. Then it turns into 338 Lapua. It's like, well, why do you need a rifle that you can shoot 1,500 yards? Why do you need that? Then it becomes they're going after sniper rifles. And see, people think that won't, but it's obviously coming. You have to, obviously we have to reopen the NFA. In my fantasy of fantasies, I had hoped that Donald Trump would reopen the NFA.
Look, we've talked about this before. Donald Trump is not some hardcore pro-gun guy. But his son kind of is. Here's my fantasy. A lot of the things we hoped Donald Trump would have done in his first term, he didn't do. But, he was attacked on all four fucking sides by the Democrats, and he was busy. Now, I'm hoping if he gets reelected, he's got 4 years of this is his last 4 years. I'm hoping that maybe he'll introduce some things that are good for the pro-gun guys out there, the pro-2A guys, Yeah,
you have no choice. You have to vote for him. I don't feel like he's anti-gun, but the whole bump stock thing is bullshit.
But you know what? Again, he's picking and choosing. And look, and I don't want to sit there and sound like I'm defending Donald Trump on the bump stock issue. I agree with you. The bump stock issue was bullshit. Of course, I think the bump stock's bullshit, but that's not the point either.
Mm-hmm. The argument that the argument people make right now is, they classified bump stocks as turning guns into machine guns,
which is not true.
Which is not how you definition of a machine gun involves how many bullets come out with a pull of the trigger. And a bump stock, supposedly, that's the workaround. The bump stock is physics. You can't ban physics. So you can't be in favor of – you can't speak softly about banning bump stocks and then complain now they're coming after the braces because it's the same category.
Exactly.
The bump stocks was first. Now they're going to reset. Now they want to reset the SBR thing.
Yeah.
Well, I have a question about reasonable gun control. Would that apply to dropping a new Wilson and scuffing the shit out of it?
Yes, it would, because obviously you're not practicing gun control if you do that, and you should be banned from owning firearms for life.
You know what? I'm so sure. I am so certain that whomever over at Wilson runs their social media, it probably cringes half the time they look at the stuff that goes on over here because we're not pretty picture 1911 people. I mean, I like pretty pictures.
Well, okay, so let me, Danny, let me tell you this. My father, who's still alive, maybe once or so a year, he'll go shooting with us. And he's a prima donna. I mean, for example, he's got a Remington 870 Wingmaster that he's been deer hunting with for 40 years. And with the exception of one little scratch on the pump handle, this thing looks like it's freaking mint. It looks like it's never been fired. And he's, hunted with 40 years. Many deer with it. And he'll tell you that scratch came from a piece of barbed wire, damn it. He's a pistol princess by definition. And it irritates him to no end. And I do this on purpose. We'll be at the range and we'll have the table set out with, handguns on it, boxes of ammo, whatever. And I'll get done shooting and I'll take one of my handguns and I'll go up to the table and I'll be, 6-8 inches from the table and I'll just drop it on the table because I don't give a shit about it. I mean, my guns are tools. It just irritates the crap out of him. And I do it just for the irritation factor.
Yeah.
I'm not a guy who babies their firearms. Marky's definitely not a guy who babies their firearms. But with that being said, if you're a guy who babies your firearms and likes to keep them in mint condition, there's not a damn thing wrong with that. I'm not saying there is. I'm just saying that I don't look at firearms as an investment. And with that being said, trust me, there's many, many firearms in our armory right now that are kind of investment pieces, But if I'm carrying it and I'm using it and I'm working it, I have no problem taking a rattle can and spray painting it bright fucking pink if we're doing a breast cancer awareness shoot. I don't have a problem with throwing it down on a table. I mean, I don't have a problem dropping it. Now, I'm going to bust Marky's balls about dropping the Wilson, mainly because I did listen to the last podcast you guys did without me, and, screw you both.
Whatever could you be talking about?
Well, if any listener wants to know, they have to go back to Pod 189 and listen.
Don't let Mrs. Freeze hear it.
Yes, whatever you do, just go get your hair done.
But look, okay, so let's get on to an interesting piece that Marky, you sent to me the other day about the 1858 Remington black powder revolver.
Okay, so Freeze has been doing all these cool videos on these collectible Remington guns out of this family's estate because you're advising them and doing some historical research and giving them an idea of what they're looking at, what this is it real, is it repop, before they take it to the auction houses so they can be just more informed. And obviously the auction houses will dial up or dial down the value of the analysis, but they go in with two opinions as opposed to just one, which is good. And they were generous enough to allow Freeze to film a bunch of content. And we had this guy reach out from France, which I was very flattered by. I'm like, oh, wow, you're in France, huh? And the reason he's reaching out from France is, in France, the only guns you can buy, quote, over the counter, his phrase, are these black powder guns. And so he sends over I think it was him, but he sends over a link to a 1913 rail that somebody's making today that clamps onto the top of one of these black powder guns so you can put a red dot on. And it's just like, who would do this? But then I'm thinking, if I lived in France and I couldn't have guns, and this is what I had to buy, and I literally wanted to have it to make it the best gun I could, because it's the one gun I have, and I need to shoot it down a hallway or shoot it out my door because they're allowing all these crazy psychopaths into my country, I might be I'm exactly the guy who would do that.
When you sent it over, the guy was asking my opinion on it, I believe.
Yeah, he was like, "Hey, could you do a review on this and put it on the gun?" And I'm like,
well, first off, I've never seen the product before, but I'll be honest with you, I'd love to get a hold of one. I don't even know who's selling them or if they're even available here in the U.S.
I think it's an eBay or an Amazon listing. There, you can. But, yeah, it was.
Well,
if you have a gun to stick it on, we will get one for you.
I have a gun I can stick it on. It's a repro. I would never put it on an original, but I have access to a repro I can put this on.
Okay.
But let me tell you something though. I see where you're coming from. I looked at it from a totally different angle. I looked at it from a hunter's point of view. I'm thinking, wow. So I'm limited because I'm in a European country, and black powder is kind of the one thing they don't really have that many limits on. And I'm thinking, wow, I want to go out there and I want to hunt maybe some wild boar or some deer. And I mean, I've pistol hunted over the years, and if I'm limited to a 44 caliber 1858 Remington revolver, why the hell wouldn't I want to put either a long eye relief scope on it or even a red dot? And this rail allows you to do that. And I'm thinking, well, holy shit, that's an amazing item. I like it. I like it a lot.
It's not a permanent modification, correct? It's like a
No,
clamshell,
that's
like
the
a
thing.
G3 mount, right?
No, exactly. It's not a permanent modification. It doesn't damage the firearm, and I guess you could make the argument clamping it down may put some blemishes in the bluing, but there's ways around that as well.
Sure.
To where you don't have to mar the finish by mounting.
How long is black powder hunting season in Ohio? Would this be something that would be interesting because you get a much longer season in Ohio for black powder gun?
No, in Ohio, black powder hunting season's like 4, maybe 5 days, but it would apply for pistol hunting, and you could also use it in rifle hunting.
Yeah.
So
use it regular gun season. Use it black powder.
You could use it during black powder season. You could use it during regular gun season, and I'm not 100% sure. Ohio used to have a pistol season, just like Indiana used to have.
Oh, did
but
they?
I think
didn't know that.
no, but I think it's all like it used to be. Like shotgun season, and but it's all incorporated into firearms right now. So basically, you would have in Ohio, you would have your 6-day firearms season, and then you would have I believe it's 5 days for muzzle loading. So you would have like 9 days you could hunt with this thing in Ohio.
You used the phrase muzzle loading. With this gun, you can't use these guns for muzzle loading season.
Yes, you can. It's a black powder firearm.
Okay, well, I have to. That's what I'm saying. But muzzle loading, it says muzzle loading, not black powder, and those are two completely different terms.
The muzzle loading season includes all black powder rifles, whether it's a traditional flintlock percussion or inline. Because I can argue inline muzzle loaders are basically just fucking rifles. As a matter of fact, I know a guy who actually you know him too. I'll just mention his first name because it's John.
Mm-hmm. I know John.
During firearms season, he used a lot of the time, and he gave up his shotgun, and this was before he could use, like a 308 rifle. He was using a 50 caliber inline muzzle loader.
That's just what he's
opposed
gonna
to a
do.
shotgun. Yeah, because you know what? He's got an inline muzzle loader. It's a single shot, yes, but he drops a couple Pyrex pellets in there. He throws a saboted rifle bullet in there. He's got a scoped rifle that can touch deer out at 200 yards,
It's better than a shotgun.
opposed to using a 12 gauge shotgun with a slug barrel.
Yeah,
You know?
honestly, that's a better. You're right. That is a better shot all day. If you
Oh,
absolutely
absolutely. Yeah.
positively got to make that hit at 200 yards, get that muzzle loader out.
I'd
You're
rather
right.
use
You're
an
right.
inline muzzle loader with the scope than a freaking a slug barreled shotgun with the scope.
I have
If I'm
to
going to do a
admit,
200-yard shot.
the older I get, some of these more primitive firearms become more interesting to me. Maybe it's because of the challenge, and maybe it's because we have our own facilities, and like range time isn't so precious now. You just, I still am looking forward to taking out the Sharps rifle in 4570 and taking it out, but I'm not opposed to maybe one day, some kind of
Oh, we can
black
have a
powder
black
gun.
powder day because I mean I have, let's see, I have two 50 caliber black powder rifles, and I have a 54 caliber flintlock black powder rifle. Couple pistols thrown into the match.
Yeah,
Black powder
you were big
revolver, a
in all
couple
that kind
single
of stuff.
shots. We could technically have a black powder day at the range. Now, granted, we may be out there for 10 hours, and we may only shoot 100 rounds in that 10 hours.
Yeah, well,
but I mean, it's different, and it's a good time.
mm-hmm, sure. Hey,
Hey, I actually have a gun question, if that's okay. Someone asked me.
Oh,
yeah, go ahead,
Jesus.
Danny.
Oh, yes, during World War II, the standard issue rifle for the Americans was the Garand, the Enfield for the British, Mauser for the Germans. What did the French army? What were they issued?
It was
LaBelle.
the Moss 36 didn't really come online in time, did it?
Well, the Maz 36 was there. Actually, the French used the Maz 36, and after they ran over once they overtook France in like 5 minutes, the Germans actually used the Maz 36. But the long rifle they used was the LaBelle.
Yeah,
The Maz 36 is a carbine. It's a short rifle.
The real answer, Danny, is in this is an historical answer that a lot of Americans don't appreciate. They just don't, because Americans think the American military is the greatest military that ever existed, and it's always been that way, and that's true, but it's also not true. There was a time, and this is for real. There was a time Britain was known as having the greatest navy in the history of the world. Before them, the Spanish had the greatest navy, okay? The French were known for their army. They were the professional army. Yeah, you talk about the Brits, and you could talk about, some of the things that get around the world. But the Brits maintained a very small professional military that was very expeditionary. The British military historically, some people are going to cringe when I say this, relative to the French, the British military, the British army had more in line with the modern United States Marine Corps than it does with the French army. The French army was this huge bureaucracy. It was an institution. You got to realize these people were super proud of themselves. They had Napoleon. They had all of this stuff. They had, Charles Martel and Charlemagne, and like the French military history. They had this giant ass overbloated military with this giant ass bureaucracy, and all of these people, they were not organized. They were over organized. When the war started, there's so many different guns. There's so many different, because they're trying to rotate stuff in, rotate stuff out. 100 different goddamn agencies have to give their opinion on how to do stuff and how to make a gun. It was a mess, and so that was a huge problem with the French military. Was their bureaucracy really contributed a great deal to a lot of their issues. Winning a war and losing a war, and groupthink, and the idea that they're the greatest ever.
Do we not have a demilled French mortar in the armory?
We do.
Yes. and that's almost like a pocket mortar. And when I say a pocket mortar, I don't mean you can put it in your pocket, but it's a small, lightweight, manned mortar.
It's like a squad mortar. It's not like for a full blown mortar team. It's a infantryman's mortar.
Yeah.
Well, Marky, you bring up a good point. You talk about how during World War II, the French had, let's say, 100 different people wanting input on that. Isn't that also what led to part of the French going with the Allies and the other part going Vichy?
Well, the Vichy France situation, that was, France has another problem that America doesn't have, and it's actually quite timely to today's politics. So when you talk about the history of France, and you talk about Charlemagne, and you talk about Charles Martel, and you talk about insert whatever point in history in France's history, the government's not the same. The governments have fallen and new governments have come. The First Republic, the Second Republic, the Third Republic. America's never really gone through a First Republic, Second Republic. You could make an argument about the Confederation of States pre-1789 in the modern Constitution, but that was so short-lived. That was just a realization that the structure set up for our government. Like, we've never... So... what happened was help me here, Freeze. Who's the general? The French. He's a World War I French hero, Field Marshal. Was it Foch who led the Vichy government? Basically, they made peace with the Germans.
You know what?
The Germans came through, they basically grabbed what they wanted. And
I know who you're talking about. I can't think of his name off the top of my head.
Is it Foch? Foch? Is it him or is it a? It's not Pétain, is it? Maybe it was Pétain. I have to. Anyway, so yeah.
Well, that had to do with Algeria, though, didn't it? In that area.
Well, that was later. That all came later. So yeah.
Okay.
I mean, the French. The French military, and even today, French bureaucracy is so huge. It's just, I don't know if you could say it's part of their culture, but you could make an argument that, like, today, the fundamental problem that we have in the United States politically, now that 2 days from now is the next election, is you have a political party that believes in the Constitution that was created in 1789, the First Republic, and maybe you have a political party that maybe is looking to make the Second Republic, and they would like to have America 2.0, with maybe they want to have a different constitution and a different government structure, and that would be, I think that's a very interesting observation to make 2 days before the 2020 election. So, oh hey, by the way, in case anyone is curious, this should come as no great shock. SHOT Show 2021, so January of 2021 has been canceled.
Oh, there goes my first time gonna go.
Yeah, well, no shock there.
I mean, everybody should go to SHOT Show at least once. But once you know what the thing is, if you go and you're just walking around and you're attending, like, you're a gun store or something, it's cool. Like, you get to see a bunch of stuff. Sometimes you get to see people that you've only read about or seen on television or in magazines.
There's a lot there. Yeah, there's a lot of people that, if you're in the gun community, you will see at the SHOT Show. Yeah,
yeah.
But you know what though? But here's the thing: you'll see those same people at the NRA show too. And
some of them, yeah, because the NRA show. But the SHOT Show's just become, I think for a lot of people, it's just become too much. It's
the SHOT Show's a mess. I mean, well, I shouldn't say it's a mess. It's just, look, I'm not in the industry per se. I don't, I'm not putting out, new firearms. I'm not a manufacturer. I'm not a dealer. I'm not a wholesaler. And, I mean, the SHOT Show to me is just boring. I mean, it's cool. But, okay, so it's like going to an NRA show. NRA shows are cool as hell, but after you've been to a few of them, it's just like, whatever.
Yeah, I don't think people appreciate how big SHOT Show is. Like, physically, I bet you SHOT Show is 4 to 5 times bigger than the biggest NRA show. It is. You can't see it all.
No,
They break it up. You'll have one hall's law enforcement. And I mean hall. Like an entire thing. Like when I used to work SHOT Show, I worked on the law enforcement side. Then you've got the other side. And then you would have the downstairs on the lower level was like the shit vendors. And they're not really shit vendors, but like Williams Site Company would be down there. Why? Because it's cheaper, and Williams isn't going to spend a gold brick just to have some giant booth next to Surefire that's making money hand over fist. You know what I mean? So there was definitely like a stratification of successful, less successful companies, and you've got a lot of people running around SHOT Show who are, say, in the business, and they're really only concerned. They won't deal with you or talk to you unless you're like a cool guy or they can get something from you. Yeah. And I have lived on both sides of that conversation. And, with the internet now and video and YouTube and just, we've got our own armory, we have our own critical mass. I'm not saying I'll never go back to SHOT Show. I'm just like, maybe another 5 years. If I'm gone for, say, 10 years or 11 years, it could be worth it just to see radically different things.
Look, no one knows what the future will hold, but right now, traveling to the SHOT Show is it's a waste of time. Well, especially this year since it's not going to be held. But yeah, I guess you could always play some slot machines while you're there.
The thing is, I don't drink, I don't party. Like there's after parties, like SHOT Show. It's like it's a convention. Like
it's a social, and a lot of it. It's a social event where people get together socially and network big time.
It's very social. And
absolutely.
Maybe I'm not the most social guy.
Well, you're not. You're pretty much of a dick, but
Yeah, I'm still. After I retired, I so burned out on people. I'm still trying to, and I'm not much of a dick as I used to be. Let's be real. I mean, come on, give me some credit. I used to be a raging fucking dickhead. And I'm still a raging dickhead. I'm like an 8, not an 11.
Okay, so I will admit I don't really have to talk you off the fence that much anymore. I tell you, there's been times in the past where I've just had to say, dude, come on now. Let's just ratchet it down a little bit. It's not that big of a deal. Because I mean, you're a lot like I'm a burn the house down kind of guy. Mm-hmm. Spit on my shoe, I'll burn your fucking house down.
I'm trying not to be that guy, but when you work the streets,
that's
it. You just can't, So yeah,
you cannot tone it down. How well we know.
Mm-hmm. Oh, also,
there's a big difference between toning it down and turning it off.
Well, let me go back to SHOT Show, then we'll move on to a couple other things. So then we'll get into politics. We've been going for about 50 minutes now.
Okay.
Without SHOT Show, I have to give SHOT Show some credit for 2 acquisitions in the armory that nobody would see coming. Were the John 1911 Armory. I'm more of the modern tactical military douchebag over here. You know what I mean? Like Freeze is more of like the practical hunter. He likes guns that are interesting. He likes project guns. Like we do very different things. But without SHOT Show, there are 2 guns I would have never bought for the armory because I saw them in person at SHOT Show and spoke to the people directly and got to deal with it. The first one was the Jim West's Wild West co-pilot takedown lever gun.
One of my favorite guns in the armory, by the way.
I spoke to Jim West at SHOT Show. I walked by his booth. It wasn't busy. I think he was on the lower level. I could be mistaken, but I think he might have been on the lower level. And I was like, oh, yeah, it's those guns. And I was talking to him and I just walked by and I had my cred, so he saw we were vendors. And, so we kind of had a real conversation. And I was so impressed with the gun when an opportunity came out to buy one, I made it a point I was going to scoop that up, and so we did. The second gun that I bought that I never would have bought if I hadn't played with it and talked to them at Chacho was the Shiloh Sharps rifle that we had.
I was just going to say the Shiloh Sharps, and it took you what? Like it was, I think it was over a year to get it.
Mm-hmm. It took, as a matter of fact, if I recall, I think I even placed the order for the Sharps rifle at SHOT Show.
At the SHOT Show, yes, you did.
Mm-hmm.
You placed the order at the SHOT Show.
And I will forever go down in the book of firsts at Shiloh Sharps, as Shiloh Sharps may not know Marky, they may not know John1911, they may not know anything about us, but they will remember the guy who showed up at their booth, talked to him for a while, didn't know anything about their products, and before he placed an order with a deposit, said, "Could I get the furniture in synthetic furniture, like as opposed to wood?" And they were just like, "No."
Always the angle.
They were like,
well, now, mind you, Danny. Now, mind you, when he placed the order for this gun, John1911 did not exist.
yeah.
I do believe we owned the website in the name, but John1911 was not a practical entity. We were still tactical T-shirts.
Yeah,
at that time.
I was working at the other place.
Yeah. You were still actually working.
That we will not mention.
No, we won't mention them. But you were still actually actively working at the other place, and we were farting around in business. We were tactical T-shirts, and we were just kind of fumbling along. We weren't doing podcasting. We weren't doing videos.
Oh, it's
we were
pre almost everything.
Oh yeah, this was pre everything. We were just two guys that just kind of like were friends.
With the T-shirt and the dream. So also, but also to move on here, because we got to get into it somewhat. To many people's surprise, but not people who actually know law enforcement circles, Glock has released the Gen 5 version of their 40 caliber service pistols. Glock 22, Glock 23, and the Glock 27.
Well, you know my feeling on any 22.
Yeah, well, the newer ones they have better recoil
on any
systems.
Glock.
Yeah.
I would own a Glock. I really would, probably a 17, but I can't stand the 40, the Glock 22. Like Marky and you guys know, I had it, 2 mags through it, handed it right to my son-in-law. Yours.
Yeah. And the thing is, a lot of people are down on the 40, and look, I get it, I really do, but it's always interesting. Now when we're going through a lot of these shortages because of a lot of people panicking and buying stuff, I'm hearing grumblings. Again, I don't buy ammo at a gun store. I don't look at gun shelves, but I'm hearing from people that they can still find 40 or find it easier, and I'm hearing from people they can still find 45. The reason being, these off calibers, there's not as many people buying as much of it. So there is an argument to be made that if you, let's say you're a Glock guy, okay, like you're sitting here and you're like Mr. Glock 17 and you got a full custom $3,000 nitrided crazy bullshit barrel and all this stuff, an argument could be made that maybe you should consider also buying a practical tactical 35, I think it's a 35, or buying a Glock 22, because you never know. If you are limited by ammo, at least you can get some 40, get a couple boxes, and at least have something. It's always good to have options within whatever system you decide to insert yourself into. Well, in the law enforcement world, a lot of people don't understand is, 40's, on the internet, 40's dead. Okay, that may be true on the gun forums.
There's still a lot of agencies out there running the 40.
There are a lot of
yes,
police
there
agencies still running 40, and they cycle guns on 10-year cycles. And here's the thing. They will cycle guns on 10-year cycles. That's if they're not changing guns. If they're changing guns, it can be more complicated. And so it's easier for a PD to go from a Glock, Gen whatever, or any kind of gun in caliber 40 to a Gen 5 caliber 40. because that's one less thing they have to deal with. And so there's we still have. I remember there was one PD. I'm not going to mention who they are. They showed up at our range, and I hope they all showed up. All the cars showed up. Even the chief showed up, and I had the wrong gun. I was carrying a 9, and they all had 40 Glocks. I was like, fuck. I just didn't realize they had 40s. And what it was, they're not a wealthy department. They don't have a large tax base. They don't have money rolling around everywhere. And
they stick with what they got.
And here's the thing.
But look,
hold on, wait. Let me make this point. When they got in the 40, when this broke ass department got into quote the 40, that was a huge lift for them, because now we have the same gun as the FBI. We are competitive. This is what the cool guy, and that was a big expense for them. And that was a lot. All of a sudden now, that gun, quote, goes out of style. It's not as easy for these small departments to follow the cool kids back into the 9. It's just not. Yeah. And kids on the internet don't understand how these organizations work. 40 will be in law enforcement for at least another 20 years, another 15 years.
No, I think 20 years is a good estimate. I mean, 40's not going away anytime soon. And look, here's the thing. I'm not a big fan of the 40. I'm not. But mainly the reason I'm not a big fan of the 40 is it's a cost to ratio type thing. 40 is a fine caliber. There's nothing wrong with the 40 caliber. There's really not. I mean, you can sit there and pick it apart, but I can pick any caliber apart.
Sure you can.
If I want to be that guy. 40 caliber Smith & Wesson is a fine round. There's nothing wrong with it. And as far as a law enforcement round goes, it's a good round to have. I personally don't run or shoot 40s just because of the cost of the ammo.
Doc shoots 40. Doc reloads 40.
You know what? And Doc can reload the shit out of 40 if he wants. But I don't have the time or the energy to break out my presses. I've got all the reloading equipment. Hell, you know that. It was in the armory for years. Mm-hmm. I just don't have the time or the energy to sit there and reload ammo. And hell, we have so much freaking brass. Hell, didn't you just give a bunch of brass away to a guy?
We gave away a ton of brass. We gave away the brass that we gave away when we moved our location. I mean, I gave all the 40 to Doc, and it was it
was a fair amount.
The 40 was at least a 5-gallon bucket worth of 40. Yeah. The 45 was 4 or 5 5-gallon buckets of 45. Yeah. The 9mm was about the same. I mean, we gave away brass in pound. I mean, like a 5-gallon bucket of 9mm. I can't remember how much it weighed, brass. Yeah. But there was some weight there. I just thought it was interesting. 40's still around, and 40's not quite going away. But you know what? But also in, I guess, in belated political news, and I guess that is worth mentioning, at least relative to the politics of where they're located. Kimber has finally given up the ghost on New York. They have moved their headquarters to Troy, Alabama. Yeah.
It must be more conducive for maybe taxes, maybe the gun manufacturing itself. There had to be a reason why they pulled out.
Do you know where Kimber was located before their headquarters moved to Troy?
No, I do not.
Yonkers, New York. So they've been all the last 10 or 12 years, all the crazy bullshit that's gone on in New York, the state of New York regarding guns, the SAFE Act, the ammo limitations, capacity, and all of that. They've been living in it. Governor Cuomo is their governor.
Well, can you blame them being in the gun world?
Well, they started in Clackamas, Oregon, and look what's happened to Oregon. Then they jumped out of the frying pan of the fire into New York. And actually, there was an argument made that when they were proposing the SAFE Act in New York, which is the state limitations on guns in New York, the latest round, they were going to limit. I heard initially they wanted to try to limit guns to a capacity maybe a 5 rounds, and then someone said, wait a minute, the M1 Grand, Grandpa's M1 Grand holds 8 rounds. And then someone said, wait a minute, also the Kimber 1911 and 45 holds 8 rounds. And the argument is that when the initial SAFE Act was proposed, they upped the capacity to 8, and then I think they finally got it to 10 rounds for civilian gun ownership to cover Kimber and Yonkers and a lot of milsurp guns in New York.
Well, I don't blame them for moving.
That makes sense though, because a lot of milsurp guns, will hold 10 rounds. But
Yeah.
but I agree with you, Danny. I don't blame them for moving either, because
No.
fuck them.
I would like to see which congressman represents where they're at in New York. Might be AOC. I'd have been packed a long time ago.
She's in Brooklyn.
No, she's in Brooklyn.
Yonkers is
Yonkers.
probably farther upstate. I don't know where it is, but it's probably farther upstate. What would be interesting? Let's just mention this about Kimber. Kimber does not have the greatest reputation when it comes to handguns. Still within a training community, somebody shows up at somebody's range and they're carrying their Kimber 1911. It's like a private bet. Like, oh god, this is going to go down. And it would be interesting to see if the culture at Kimber changes when they move to Alabama.
My personal bet, and I'm willing to say this publicly right now, I think the culture at Kimber will change when they move to Alabama. I really do. Look, Kimber, you're right. They don't have the greatest reputation in the gun community as far as, and I'm not talking about the internet guys that have Kimbers and follow, the Kimber forums and all that. I'm talking about if you work at a gun school or you work in any type of a training facility, Kimbers do not have a great reputation. But with that being said, Kimber sells a metric fuck ton of guns a year.
Mostly 1911s.
Oh yeah. I mean, probably 98% of their sales are 1911s.
Yeah.
I mean, how many people are buying?
Hold on, Freeze, you there? Hey, Freeze, we're kind of losing you there a little bit. Are you there? Yeah,
yeah, I'm here.
Okay.
I'm here.
You broke up there too, there for a second. So go ahead. What were you saying, Freeze?
Well, No, I'm saying not shitting on Kimber rifles because they're good rifles, but the truth is 98% of their market's 1911s. Yeah, they sell a couple of revolvers, they sell a couple rifles, but 1911 is their market. And you know what? There's nothing wrong with Kimbers. Kimbers are good guns for the average guy. I don't know if I'd want to go to, Afghanistan or Iraq with the Kimber.
No. Well, it's interesting, if you think about Kimber, the people that work in Kimber, they don't leave work and then step into, I don't know, maybe they do. I don't know. I guess I don't know what Yonkers, New York, and what New York is like. But, I guess I'm speaking in stereotypes here, which is always a big mistake. But I would think if you worked at the Kimber factory in Alabama and you left work and went to the bar and someone's like, where do you work? Man, I work over at Kimber. I'm their master whatever gun dude. They're like, oh, yeah, you make those shit guns, right? That's what I heard. I mean, I think every day, I don't think people leave the factory at Kimber and go out and have conversations about being gun guys.
Okay.
Gun guys.
Let me tell you the biggest argument with Kimber is they're going to be like, oh, MIM parts. That's the biggest internet argument with Kimber. Now, look.
I do not want to have a MIM conversation on this podcast. Yeah. We're already 71 minutes in.
You know what? Okay, you know what? Let's not have a MIM conversation. I mean, I don't have a problem with MIM parts myself. I mean, you either get a good part or you get a bad part. It's just the production of how the part's made. But you know what? Let's move off of guns and get on to politics.
Yay.
Okay. So the people that maybe have, because we've talked for so long, it is still November 1st of 2020. We are, I believe, 2 days away from the 2020 election. I am going to put everybody on the spot. Nobody knows this is coming, but I am going to make everybody. I'm going to ask each of you, including myself, who is going to win the election. I'm not going to say on Tuesday. I'm just going to say who's going to win the election and end up president in January of 2021. Is it going to be who's going to be president in January of 2021?
Okay.
Danny, I'll let you go first. Senior political correspondent Danny.
Okay, here's my prediction. My prediction is Trump will win, I believe, with a larger plurality of electoral votes than last time, because the margin he is within the so-called mainstream media states where they show Biden winning within the margin of error now. Well, last election, Hillary was up double digits 2 days before the election, not within the margin of error. So I believe there's going to be a lot of red going on voting day. Number two, to back up that fact, is that let's just take Florida. Well, Miami has a Cuban mayor who is a Republican. The Democrats are worried shitless because all the Hispanic Cuban vote, well, I won't say all, but the majority of it in the Miami area is swinging red, which is a lot of numbers.
The Cuban vote in Florida is going 75% in the 70s for Trump.
If Dade County goes red, that's huge.
Yes, it is. And another thing, in your guys' backyard in Ohio, have you guys noticed how DeWine has not been campaigning for Trump? He's been awful quiet. He's been real quiet. But the groundspeople are really busting their ass in Ohio. And when I was out there, I seen it firsthand. There's no way Ohio goes blue. No way, which is a pivotal state.
Okay,
I think.
Hold on. We're going to do predictions first. So, Danny, you think Trump's going to win? He's going to be president in 2021.
And the Republicans will hold the Senate.
Okay, so freeze. 2021, the next swearing in of the next president. Who's it going to be? Trump?
January 20th, 2021, it'll be Donald Trump being sworn in as president.
Okay.
Okay, and here's the thing. Danny's talking about all these different states, and he's looking at it from his political point of view, because that's his job.
Thank you.
Okay. I'm gonna tell you why I feel this way. Okay, every time Biden shows up, or Biden-Harris, whether they're separately or together, they have almost zero people showing up to their rallies. There's more actual Trump supporters there heckling them than there are Biden supporters.
True.
Trump has a rally. He has thousands of people show up. There's not enough room in the venue to get all the people in.
True.
I just saw a report yesterday that outside, whatever, it's Pica County, it's outside of Tucson, Arizona. They had a Trump train roll through, and they were all pulled over on the berm of the highway. Mind you, this is car, bumper to bumper. It was a Trump rally that was 96 miles long. Think about that.
96 miles long?
96 miles long.
Media never reported that.
No, but I'm telling you, when you start looking at shit like that, and I also have to go with my own neighborhood.
96?
96 mile long Trump
did you
train.
Know that?
I did not know that.
Jesus Christ.
Yes, it was it was outside of Tucson, Arizona. I think it's Pima County or Piqua County.
Pima County.
Pima County. Okay. 96-mile-long Trump train. They were pulled off to the side of the highway on the berm, bumper to bumper, trucks, cars flying their flags, having their shit, like you normally see. 90s. Think about how many thousands of cars that is.
Yeah. So Freeze, I knew you were working last night.
Yes.
Danny saw it. I'm pretty certain Danny saw it because I saw it. Did you see the video of the Biden bus in Texas rolling down the highway?
Dude, I did.
Surrounded by Trump trucks.
The Biden campaign actually canceled the rally because of all the Trump supporter trucks following the bus.
Now, here's the question. This is a political question. It's an important, because I heard that. This bus was in Texas, right? Was Joe Biden on that bus, or was that Kamala Harris, or was anybody on?
I honestly, the what I get, there was no one important on the bus.
Okay.
Now, who would it look? Because
the reason I ask is
Biden and Harris is not going to be on that bus. They're going to fly in. The reason I ask
is why would Joe Biden be in Texas 3 days before the election? That's insane. If somebody at the Biden campaign has Joe Biden in Texas 3 days before this election, they need to be. If I was a Democrat, I'd beat them over the head with an axe handle because you're fucking your own campaign up. That man has no business in Texas.
If I had to guess, it would have been a Harris rally. And the thing is, I don't believe Harris or Biden was on the bus because they fly into the fucking rallies, I think it was the people that were going to set up the rally, and then it was probably Harris. I don't see Biden 3 days before the election campaigning in Texas. Why bother? I mean, it's a waste of your resources, truthfully.
Maybe it was just a mobile advertising.
So let me...
Well, that's a good point, Danny. It could be it could have been mobile advertising, and maybe canceling the rally really was. You're not canceling anything because maybe there was no actual rally set.
Well, there had to be something on the schedule because they have to advertise for people to show up, and so something was probably canceled.
Yeah.
As far as my predictions for 2020, I've said this before, and I've said it again. Look. I live in Ohio. I work at John1911. I don't have any inside information that anybody else doesn't have. I have to look at the reporting. I have to look at the polls. I have to look at how the polls are being conducted. I have to ask myself not only what is being said, but who is saying it. And my problem is still the same problem that I've had for a long time. Everything is so screwed up. Nothing makes any sense. And somebody is very, very, very wrong. You've got the polls, the mainstream polls, the Real Clear Politics average polls, saying that Biden's up by X percentage points, which Real Clear Politics average polls are bullshit because you've got a state like California. How many people live in California? 60 million people? 50 million people? I mean, it doesn't matter. Like, it's a state race. That's how Hillary lost, was looking at things like that. Hillary didn't go to Michigan. Trump's going to win or lose this in Florida. He's going to win Florida. Trump's going to win Texas. He's going to win Georgia. He's going to win Florida. Trump, if he can pull off North Carolina, the big fight is Pennsylvania. That's why they made Joe Biden the candidate. That's why they wrecked the primaries. The party came in and said, they came in. It was like the Saturday Night Massacre. They came in. Somebody came in, and all of a sudden, all these guys in the Democratic primaries all started dropping out of the race before this particular. At one point, because they came in and said it's going to be goddamn Joe Biden because we're going to win or die in Pennsylvania. We can't believe Trump won Pennsylvania, the blue wall, the famous Democrat blue wall, and that's why they're all in Pennsylvania all the time. And, the regular polls are so different than some of the other polls. I just felt like somebody's lying to themselves here. And all of a sudden, now magically the polls are tightening. Danny referenced it. And it's like, no. They're not tightening. That's bullshit. I think a lot of these people that have been saying that Biden is up by 8, 9, 10, 12 points, have been full of shit the entire time. Biden may still win, but it's never been a blowout. And I don't know. If I look at the data, my prediction tells me the only way Trump wins is if he wins by this narrowest of narrow majorities. And it's so hard to do that twice, because I've said on this podcast, Trump won the election by 70,000 votes in Pennsylvania, Ohio, Michigan, and is it Wisconsin? He won Pennsylvania by 40,000 votes. It's, that's a pretty slim margin in a pretty populous state. Can he do that again? Hold on. Let me give my analysis.
Okay.
Why I think. Can he do that again? I don't feel good about it. I don't feel good about Pennsylvania politically. I mean, everyone who listens to this podcast on Pennsylvania, someone who lives in Ohio, I hate Pennsylvania. I hate you guys every 4 years. Because the night before the election, when Hillary versus Trump, I looked at the television and I said, I am not going to stay up and wait for Pennsylvania to go Republican. I'm just fucking not doing it. I'm going to bed, and Hillary will be president in the morning, and I don't give a fuck. And I woke up, and I was like, what do you mean he won Pennsylvania?
What you woke up to was my text message to you going, nah, 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 nah.
Yeah. Okay, so looking at all this data, now I have some more data points to add to this. The word is Hillary did not get as many Democratic voters in greater Philadelphia as she should normally. And to give people some, and Dan and I were talking about this, to give people some numbers as far as the amount of voters, Cincinnati has a population of about 300,000 people. Pittsburgh has a population of 300, maybe 350,000. Pittsburgh, population 350. Okay?
Okay.
Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. 1.5 million people over there. And so Philadelphia, or Pittsburgh, or Pennsylvania, Pennsylvania in many ways, frighteningly, is turning into New York. It's like New York dominates the whole state. Philadelphia is dominating the whole state. The word on the ground was a couple days ago that Trump is up with black voters. Trump is up with white working class voters. Trump is up with black voters, black men. And also, apparently, the Democratic vote inside of Philadelphia, Biden was getting like 75% of the vote, not the 80 or not the 90 or 95% that you normally need. That was before all the riots broke out in Philadelphia.
Well,
Pennsylvania could go Republican. Here's the thing: if I look at the data, my brain tells me Donald Trump has to take a knife, throw it up in the air, and has to land right on the point again for a second time. And logically, I have a hard time believing that's going to happen. But I keep seeing the rallies, and I see all this stuff, and people are making songs about Donald Trump, and they're flying these flags, and all this crazy shit's going on, and my heart tells me it feels like Donald Trump's going to win this.
Okay, so last night, I left my house at like 8:30 p.m. And from my base, I mean, I'm 15 minutes away. It's not a long drive.
For work.
Yes, for work. And in that 15-minute drive, I saw 4 different pickup trucks flying Trump flags off the back of their decks.
Yes.
But you know what? Never once in the past year have I seen anyone driving a pickup truck or a car or a fucking tractor or a combine or a fucking nuclear destroyer flying a Biden flag.
Freeze, that's a very good point. And Marky, I want to read something very quick to you that lends credence to what you have said. The New York Times, as we know, is the most liberal rag in the entire United States, if not the world, posted not even an op-ed, but they posted a headline, and it says, if the president wins Ohio and Florida, it will be too close to call on election night, therefore depriving Mr. Biden of a swift victory and giving Trump the room to undermine the validity of the uncounted mail-in votes for the days after. Now, that means the New York Times is sweating, so something is going on.
They are sweating. The
Yes.
thing is, in my opinion, this is my analysis, my opinion. If Trump wins, assume the other states. Trump wins Florida, he's going to win it, obviously. Trump wins Florida, North Carolina, Pennsylvania. He's going to win Ohio, and he wins Michigan. I think he's going to take it all.
Yeah.
The battle is obviously in Pennsylvania. That's why. And look, I got to give it to Trump. I really do got to give it to Trump. Because I remember it was last week or something. You walk by, I don't know if we talked about this on pod or not. You walk by the television and it's like, okay, Trump's at a rally in North Carolina. It's like, whatever, middle of the day, rah, we're working, doing whatever's going on. Then later, a few hours later, Donald Trump's at a rally in Bismarck, North Dakota. And you're like, holy shit, that guy's doing two-a-days. He's doing two-a-days. He's 74 years old. He's doing 2 rallies a day. Then now, this past few days, he's doing 3-a-days. Okay? He's doing 3 rallies a day. And I think in Pennsylvania yesterday, in Pennsylvania, Donald Trump did 4 a-days. He did them in Pennsylvania. And I'll tell you what.
Yeah, and Joe Biden's not doing rallies though.
Well, hold on, Joe. Oh, check this out. There was video that made all the news yesterday. Barack Obama came out. Barack Obama sunk a three-pointer, in the gym. He took a shot. It's a good shot, Barack Obama's not a young man, but he can play some basketball.
But no, Barack Obama can play basketball. We know that from his 8 years in office.
But here's the thing. He's in street clothes, whatever. He makes a shot, and everyone's like, yeah, and he takes off his mask a little bit. He's like, that's how I do. It was a great moment. It's a great piece of video. If I was a Democrat, I'd run that video. But when you watch that video, very, very little bit, you'll see Joe Biden was there, and Barack Obama's strolling out of the gymnasium with his detail, and Biden's turning, and he's trying, and you can see Biden just walking into the camera on the left, and Biden's walking like an old man with a stick up his ass. Biden next to Obama doesn't look like Donald Trump is doing 4 rallies a day. Barack Obama, who's not even running for president, he's like, yeah, it's how I do. And they cannot show Joe Biden in the same video shot as Barack Obama because it's so striking. Joe Biden looked feeble, just walking. It looked terrible, and they cut it out just for a second. They had to put just enough video in there to be like, Biden's here because of Barry, but then they can't show anymore. It was bad.
Well, I'll tell you something. Barack Obama is a very charismatic person. Look, you may not like his politics, but he was a very popular president for 8 years. Mm-hmm. He's a good talker. He's very charismatic. He is just, look.
Barack Obama's a good retail politician.
He's a great politician. He is. And I hate to even give him credit for that, but he's a great politician. He knows what to do and how to do it, and he gets the job done. You may not like his politics, but, it is what it is.
They're bringing him out.
But Joe Biden is no Barack Obama. Wow, I just kind of referenced you're no a John Kennedy phrase there, but that was going back to a presidential debate.
That was Dan Quayle and Lloyd. Was it Lloyd Benson?
Maybe so. But yeah, it's like I knew John Kennedy, and you're no John Kennedy, sir.
Yeah.
So I mean, look, I mean, the truth is, I think everyone. Now, look, if you're a hardcore Democrat, you're a hardcore Democrat, and you're going to vote for Joe Biden regardless, and that's whatever. But the people that are fence straddlers, the people that are middle of the road,
Danny, I hear whatever it is you're doing. Stop it. Keep talking, Freeze.
I think they understand that, and I firmly believe this. If Joe Biden wins the election and gets elected president in January of 2021, I think by 20 of 22, he will step down and Kamala Harris will take
25th
over.
Amendment.
Well,
No, I don't even think. I
he
don't
can
even
just
think.
retire.
I mean, it's not even a 25th Amendment, Danny.
All the
It's all
Democrat-
he's got to do is say, for health reasons, I'm stepping down, and Kamala Harris, as the vice president, is
Presidents are
taking my
allowed to retire.
place. Yes,
Nixon retired.
yes, he did. He retired before the impeachment.
I mean, here's the thing. There was a survey among Democrats who they're going to vote for Biden, and they asked them, it's like they expect that if they're voting for Biden and Biden wins, that Kamala Harris will be president by 2024, which absolutely means that she'll either be running for president or will be president, or at some point will take over. It's look, and here's the thing, like. I got to play both sides here of the argument. We've been going a long time, but it's new software lets us do it.
Cool.
Look, if you are a Democrat, you're holding on to every nugget of information that helps your side. If you're a Republican, you're holding on to every nugget of information that helps your side, because this is the key. This is what's really going on. And I'm going to give two stories, one that's pro-Democrat, one that's pro-Republican, and this is where everything is so screwed up. And the first one, this went on the Democratic favoring media outlets, and it said the Trump 2020 campaign. So not Donald Trump himself, but the campaign. That's an organization. It's got a CEO. Yeah. It's running things. They set up these events. The Trump 2020 campaign decided to cancel their election night plans for they were going to have a party. I think it was at a Trump hotel in Washington, and they were going to have big balloon do all this stuff because there's going to be a big party, and that's everyone's going to watch the results, and then Trump will come out and give his speech, and they canceled it. And the Democrats are saying that Trump knows he's going to lose, and so they don't want to do it. They're canceling the party, and the Trump 2020 campaign said that Donald Trump has decided to watch the elections from the West Wing, the results from the West Wing. I think the reality of that situation is that unless it's a blowout and it's beyond the margin, not the margin of error, but the margin of litigation, which is we're going to go into a Florida hanging Chad 2000 thing with Pennsylvania because they can, it's going to be close in Pennsylvania. That we may not get a result. We're probably not going to get a result on election night. They're not going to be able to call it. So the Trump campaign decided to. The other argument is Trump campaign decided they weren't going to have a big old party, and I believe they have also put some restrictions in Washington on how many people are allowed to attend. And the Trump campaign's like, well, look, we're not going to fucking have this bullshit party if we're not going to get the results and nobody can come, like 50 people or something. So there's that story. And the Democrats are like, oh my God, Trump knows he's going to lose. Here's the one that's on all the social media for the pro-Twitter, pro-Trump social media. The story is Biden advisors for the Biden campaign, Biden 2020, are shopping resumes around Washington. And you're like, what?
Now,
well, hold on. Wait, because you want to respond to that, but let me make the point. That Republicans are like, see, they know something. They know it's all bullshit. They know it's all fake. They know they're going to lose. But here's the thing. That's true. Or it could very well mean not everybody that works at Biden 2020 gets a job in the West Wing. Not everybody that works at Biden 2020 gets a job in the administration. If you're a Java developer at Biden 2020 and the election is in 2 goddamn days, guess what? You're going to need a job in 3 days.
Yes.
And it's like, so my point is, these are all bullshit stories that are not based in reality, and they're leading everybody down the toilet bowl.
Yeah.
So go ahead.
No, I agree with you. I mean, I don't disagree with you at all on that. I mean, but
hold on, I want to say I want the Biden story to be true the way the Republicans are taking it. I want that to be true.
Yes, so do I. I mean, so do I. But here's the thing, though, and this is what you're not taking into consideration. How many people on the Trump side of the campaign are shopping for jobs?
What's the guy? Brad Parscale's probably shopping for a good defense attorney.
I mean, look, it goes both ways because, look, this is a general election. You can sit there and say, well, I know in my heart Donald Trump's going to win, but Joe Biden may win because it's a general election. So if you were working for the Trump campaign, you would be shopping for a job just as much as the people working on the Biden campaign are shopping for a job. Mm-hmm. I mean, so it goes both ways. So, I mean, you may get a report that, Biden campaign people are job shopping, but how many Trump people are job shopping too? And that may not be the popular answer our listeners want to hear, but it's a realistic answer.
I want Trump to win.
So do I.
I refuse to allow myself to be convinced that Trump is 100% going to win. That way I'm not crushed when he doesn't. I want to be happy the way I was when I woke up that morning going, what do you mean Hillary Clinton's not president? And also I say to myself, okay, a 95-mile Trump train, okay, maybe Trump will carry Arizona. It looks like he might. He might even pull Martha McSally across the finish line, the A-10 pilot, running for Senate, or running for, I guess she was appointed that she's trying to run. That would be fantastic. I like Martha McSally. But, I don't know how many people are in a 95-mile rally of vehicles, but it's not millions. And it's not 400,000 votes. And those optics are good to a certain extent, but, watching 30 trucks driving around a Biden bus down Texas isn't the hundreds of thousands of votes that you need to carry the state.
True.
Very true.
I don't know. I don't know what the hell's going to happen. I'm loading up my guns, and I'm going to sit. I'm going to sit, and I'm going to wait.
Well,
Marky, you're wrong. You're going to sit there and dry fire the shit out of that thing.
Hey, you know what? Somebody's got to be the professional shooter around here.
I closed my earbud package and I got my wrist slapped. There we go. You'll dry fire 25,000 times on pod, and none of us say anything.
You know what? Because I have editorial control, and nobody will hear your last complaint because I will edit your shit out.
Oh my God! Oh, speaking of,
what you're saying is you're going to take Danny out of the podcast and basically. CNN Danny. You're going to CNN Danny.
I'm going to take Danny out of the podcast, and I'm going to insert Charlie Brown's teacher.
You know what? No. You know what you're going to be? You're going to be the girl in the canoe.
I don't even know what the hell that means, but okay.
You're too young.
Okay. Well, this wraps up episode 191 of the John1911 Podcast. If you want to see any stories, pictures of links of anything we've discussed, please go to our website, John1911.com. No. That's JOHN1911.com. Remember, it's all about shooting guns and having fun. Everybody, have a good day. It's been 100 minutes.
See you later, man.
Freeze, you got your ass edited also. Welcome to the club. Bye-bye.
Yeah, I'm used to it.
Bunch of whiny bitches.
Yes, we are.